Hello.
Hello, folks. Michael J here. How you doing? We've got SFR Ancient in the background. Don't know what he's doing, but he's doing something. Hopefully he's going to find the perfect glazed donut in his travels this afternoon, late in the afternoon.
I just gave it a thumbs up.
Just gave us a thumbs up. Way to go, folks. So, without further ado, we're going to carry on with the CC debacle with wargaming.net. So, any questions, comments, post in chat. Handle yourself with a certain modicum of, or a certain standard
of decorum.
As our good buddy just added, of decorum. A modicum of decorum. That's it. So now we've jingled our jangles, and we're ready to go. Playing a video, so questions, comments, chat. Remember, Bob's your uncle, and if Bob's not your uncle, request a name change.
Hello, everyone. Today I return yet again with another update regarding this thing. Wargaming had a chance to perhaps kill this entire drama, make things right, to appease the community, to fix issues, and as you're probably aware, in classic Wargaming fashion, they did absolutely none of those things. Wargaming's so-called, I don't know, apology? I don't think anyone will actually call it an apology, but it was just not admitting any fault, not apologizing for anything, and in general just kind of hoping the entire thing goes away. And they spent 2 days preparing for this entire thing, and it was a complete disaster, of course, complete disaster. No one actually took this as any sort of apology, and Wargaming's attempt to defuse this situation, well, it was terrible. All they managed to do is straight up pour more gas on the fire, especially when it came out, when they promised that, well, in the so-called apology, they said, "We appreciate the community feedback about Missouri being obtainable via random bundles exclusively in 0.10.7. We have been discussing this since last week and decided to add an alternative way to purchase the ship. We will provide details on our dev blog soon." And my god, the dev blog, it's probably the single most tone-deaf thing I've ever seen. "Captains, we would like to announce the upcoming changes in the upcoming event with Missouri." Sounds good. "Based on your feedback, we're going to add an alternative way of obtaining Missouri in 0.10.7. Oh wow, are we going to be able to get it like free XP, like it used to be? Or is there going to be some way to grind it, perhaps? Or is it going to be a coal ship or something? A special temporary web-based campaign dedicated to the end of World War II, nice, will be available from August 27. It's a unique event with new mechanics. You will have the chance to immerse yourself in the atmosphere of the greatest naval battles and choose your own path through the Pacific theater of World War II. Oh, this sounds really cool. We had this portal campaign planned without Missouri, but based on your feedback and her special connection to the end of the war, we think this would be a great thematic fit to offer an alternative way of obtaining her." Oh, this sounds promising. So, after completing the campaign, you will be able to purchase Missouri directly in the premium shop at the same price as other tier 9 premium ships. So this is their response. You know what? You're gonna have this entire campaign to complete, and once you complete this campaign, you'll be able to still use real money just to buy it in the premium store with no discount, no special offer, just exactly the same price as any other tier 9 premium. So, and note that in the entire devlog or in this entire thing, they don't actually mention anything about removing the doubloon loot boxes that contain the Missouri. So they're still very much hoping that people will not want to grind this entire campaign just for the right to spend real-life money. So if people don't want to do this, they'll instead spend a ton of money on these random gambling boxes to get the Missouri through them. It's such a level of greedy and scummy that is actually hard to believe, but I mean, it is wargaming, so this sounds exactly like something they would do. This is their apology. You can buy it. That's their appeasement to the community. Well, to no one's surprise, this went over as well as, well, their entire house being on fire. Obviously, people just straight up laughed them out of the building, and I mean, at this point, people have no expectations of wargaming, and this really proved it. The thing is, though, this fire is starting to spread a bit further than wargaming probably hoped, and probably a bit further than wargaming anticipated, because they're kind of hoping that with their kind of not apologizing for anything, not acknowledging the issue, people will forget about it, it will die out. They also put some vague promise in their apology how they're going to add some ship in 2022. You better believe that's probably never going to happen, or if it is, it's something they're going to sell as well. So they're hoping this will just go away. But the exact opposite is actually happening right now. The exact opposite. It's starting to get picked up by gaming media. And it's starting to be picked up by a lot of gaming media. And that's exactly what they were hoping wouldn't happen. Massively Overpowered wrote an article about it. The Soapbox, World of Warships aggressive monetization incited a mass exodus of content creators. And this started the avalanche. It was upvoted extremely highly on the games subreddit on Reddit. And this is just general gaming, not World of Warships, but just games. 2,000 votes, 260 comments. It's starting to get a lot of visibility. PC Gamer picks up on it. Aggressive monetization is driving prominent players away from World of Warships. We have... Which site was this? I can't remember. It's being picked up by various sites across the board. Various gaming sites. World of Warships faces mass exodus of content creators, aggressive monetization, gambling mechanics, and toxic relationships. Even Kotaku is writing about it. World of Warships players are in open revolt over shady monetization schemes. It's being picked up by German pages, it's being picked up by Polish pages, just various local EU pages are starting to pick up on this. This is a lot of press wargaming really didn't want. And because this is the kind of press that reaches the average player. Because a large part of the player base doesn't actually watch these vids, or they don't really read the forums, or they pay attention to Reddit and stuff. The average players don't read this. But when it starts blowing up to this extent, that's when they start paying attention, like, holy shit, what's going on? What the hell is this company doing? So this is quickly spiraling out of what Wargaming hoped there was their control, and that they had a chance to really kill it, but that awful I can't even call it an apology, that awful response just incited even further revolt, and well, now it's being spread all over the place, and now they're starting to get probably a fair bit worried. Some fan pages, like for example World of Warships fitting tool that I use, well, they're not even being subtle about their dislike anymore. I mean, if you open the site, World of Warships, a terrible game by a terrible company, wargambling.net. Let's battle. By battle we mean fuck you right in the wallet. So yeah, I've never actually seen this much just global dislike by the player base against wargaming in general. They are scrambling for some way to kill this drama. They're scrambling for some way to kill this shit show that is currently occurring, because right now it's quickly growing, it's mushrooming, and I mean, this is good. This this is just a good thing, because they are being so incredibly scummy and so incredibly greedy with their practices. It's fine. It's good that it's finally getting exposed, and it's finally getting, people are getting an idea, because people have this idea that, because back in the day wargaming used to be fairly free to play friendly, but those days have long since passed, and these days you can't even grind new lines. It's all early access content crates, and I mean they've gone completely insane on the monetization of every aspect. We had the flags being removed from achievements, like basically every single way they can think of to make you spend more money they have come up with. And you can tell that they're actually getting quite desperate, because a Little White Mouse, April White Mouse, Little White Mouse posted a rather interesting picture of a conversation on the Reddit, which says, Wargaming attempts to offer a scapegoat. And it's a member of Wargaming. She intentionally censored that because she didn't want to make this guy some sort of scapegoat. This guy says, hello, Little White Mouse, I know that you're angry with us right now, but I personally wanted to add that I am deeply sorry for how the conversation which you went regarding the Missouri mission bonus in the CC Discord last week. I meant no disrespect or to attack you. I did not understand the issue properly, unfortunately, rushed my replies and caused even more misunderstanding. This situation could have been avoided with better and clearer communication from my side. Note that he's always talking about himself, never about Wargaming, never about the company. This is all him personally. I accept full responsibility for what I said, and I'm still ready to make these apologies public if you want. Please accept my apologies. And White Mouse just goes, you already apologized. That's not what this is about. This is about Wargaming breaking their commitments to Chobi and I. And then he's like, I just wanted to make sure that you know that I personally regret this situation. And she's just like, yeah, that's fine, but it's irrelevant to the matter at hand. Wargaming violated the commitments to Chobi and I. It's because he keeps trying to make it a personal thing. Oh, it was only me. Whereas she's clearly, this is company-wide. This isn't one dude. But Wargaming are clearly willing to throw this one guy under the bus in the hopes that, well, the community will get mad at him instead of getting mad at the company, and they can kind of quietly relocate him or something and say, yeah, he's been punished, and they can just put it under the carpet. What is it called? Just hide it under the sofa or something, so people will forget about it and the whole drama will die down. Well, she didn't bite because it was fairly blatant. In fact, her top comment was, I'm posting this for two reasons. First, I believe Wargaming is trying to throw this employee under the bus. That's the saying, under the bus. My best guess is that they are being made to apologize again in the hopes that doing so publicly would exonerate Wargaming of any direct responsibility. They could be disciplined, transferred, dismissed to pay for Wargaming's fault if this hasn't already transpired. As far as I am concerned, they already apologized. What I was, and I'm still more concerned with, was how Wargaming allowed this behavior to be considered acceptable. Sub-Octavian clearly believes it is because he refused to provide tangible proof of a commitment to work upon correcting it. All we get are empty promises. Wargaming are expert at those. I got one 6 weeks ago, I got one on Friday, received another one today, and nothing changes. I don't accept your attempt at a scapegoat Wargaming. And then of course she has to not harass CCs, because why would you? So this is starting to like smell like they are actually getting a bit desperate to kill this thing real fast. They're scrambling for ways to get rid of this. So if they suddenly decide, if you suddenly read the news and there's some one dude who's being blamed for this entire thing, and Wargaming apologizes not for their behavior but for this individual's behavior and how they handle themselves, be aware that this is just a scapegoat. This is Wargaming finding someone to conveniently throw all the blame on so that this thing quickly dies down. And at this point, you need to be aware that this was most certainly not one single individual. And the entire Missouri monetization thing, most certainly not one single individual either. This is them trying to get rid of any person or any company responsibility of this issue, and they have this one guy lined up ready to take the entire blame, the entire hatred of the community, just so they can kill the story and so they can stop news sites, media sites picking up on it, and so that they can get rid of this entire drama. And that's exactly what we don't want. They're hoping, oh, forgive and forget. The guy was blamed, the thing is dead. But at this point, I think the community has gotten so used to the tactics and the bullshit that Wargaming spews that it simply isn't flying anymore. They have actually trained us to see through all their bullshit by lying to us for how many years? Well, I mean, some of us noticed it faster than others. There are still people defending them, but this is getting real spicy, isn't it? Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, I will keep you posted, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
This is not it.
Okay, folks, what'd you think of that? Any questions, comments, of course, use chat. Now we're going to move on to the next video in a series that I've got going here. Okay, so questions chat, comments chat.
Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Wargambling with the mighty Jingles. I hadn't actually intended to do this video today. I was going to save it all for Mingles with Jingles on Monday, but well, events are starting to spiral out of control, so I thought I should probably address the issues that have occurred over the last 3 days, because if I wait until Monday, there'll be so much more to cover that I won't have time in one episode of Mingles with Jingles. The replay UI bug is still here, by the way. It's been 2 patches. No, they haven't fixed it yet. The torpedo aiming bug is still here, by the way. It's been 2 patches. No, they haven't fixed that yet. What have they done over the course of the last 2 patches? Well, they have introduced a whole bunch of new premium ships, multiple sets of new loot boxes, the opportunity to get the new Dutch cruisers through loot boxes, with the promise of more loot boxes on the way for the USS Missouri. And if you want to get early access to submarines, guess what? They're also available in loot boxes. They're free loot boxes though. Yes, they are. And you know what? That's probably one of the most insidious things, because now things that they're giving away for free are even contained inside loot boxes. Well, yeah, but that's not costing anybody anything, Jingles. Well, no, it's not. But what it's doing is getting you accustomed to opening loot boxes. It's getting you accustomed to the whole process of new things coming into the game, and you're having to get them out of loot boxes so that you don't think twice. It's demonstrating Wargaming's commitment to monetizing the game through the use of gambling mechanics, a game which, I must remind everybody, on the EU server has a PEGI rating of 7. Yes, a game that is marketed towards children. More on that later. But for now, let's just take a look at Wargaming's response to the whole exodus of community contributors and the general revolt in the player base, and then I'll explain to you why none of that matters. So things basically kicked off on Friday when Little White Mouse announced publicly her intention to leave the community contributor program. And then events accelerated over the course of the weekend. On Saturday, I also announced my intention to quit the community contributor program. I certainly wasn't alone. I don't know how many of us have quit and protest at the moment, or who are sitting on the fence, but it's, I don't know, I think 23 at the last count. Whatever. Doesn't actually matter. The timing of the whole thing, which wasn't planned, it just happened to work out that way, meant that Wargaming didn't have an awful lot of time to respond, because it basically occurred over the weekend. They promised an official response on Monday. That didn't happen. They said they needed more time to formulate a response, and a response would be forthcoming on Tuesday instead, and on Tuesday, that response was posted on the EU and North American forums. I don't think anybody was expecting much in the way of a response from Wargaming. If I'm completely honest here, I expect most people thought we'd just see the same "we're very, very sorry, this was a failure to communicate and we'll do better in future" garbage that they've trotted out for the last 15 or 16 PR dumpster fires. Safe to say that we were setting the bar very, very low for Wargaming. And true to form, Wargaming still managed to get under it. Now remember, the core issues that people were protesting here, and the ones that we expected to see addressed, can be summed up in 3 different parts, and the least important of these 3 issues was the way the community contributor program over the course of the last couple of years has just ascended into a shambles, a completely toxic one-way relationship where Wargaming just ignore our efforts to represent you, the community, to Wargaming. And honestly, I really wasn't expecting anybody to care too much about this, because it doesn't directly affect anybody other than the community contributors themselves. Moving on to point 2. The extremely aggressive monetization that's been shoehorned into World of Warships over the course of the last year or two. I acknowledge that World of Warships is a free-to-play game, and Wargaming have to make money out of it somehow, otherwise they won't be able to continue to develop it. But here's the thing. A couple of years ago, I regularly put a large amount of money into World of Warships every month. And I didn't do it because I felt that I needed to. I did it because I loved the game, I enjoyed playing it, and I wanted to spend money on things in the game. And I suspect that an awful lot of you World of Warships players out there were in exactly the same situation. However, at some point over the last couple of years, that started to change. You can point to all kinds of examples. The way that flags, for example, have been removed from achievements, forcing you to actually put your hand in your pocket and get things that you used to be able to grind for free anyway. I'm not going to get bogged down in the details, that's just one example, but there are all kinds of examples of the sort of things that we used to take for granted in the game that started to get put behind paywalls. And third, and possibly most importantly, but also related to the way that Wargaming has started to aggressively monetize, loot boxes. Now loot boxes, or as Electronic Arts likes to refer to them, surprise mechanics, they're not illegal. You can have them in your games. They're not illegal, not everywhere, and not yet. And it's been categorically proven over and over again that loot boxes are an incredibly profitable revenue stream for any game that has them. And so from a business perspective, it makes perfect sense for Wargaming to try to hammer as much as they possibly can behind a loot box wall in order to separate our dollars from our wallets. But this is where I really start to get uncomfortable, because have you seen the age rating of World of Warships? If you go to the EU portal, it has a PEGI rating of 7. Children as young as the age of 7 are perfectly entitled to download, install and play this game. If you go to the North American server, the game is rated T for teen, which means children as young as the age of 13 are perfectly entitled to download, install and be introduced to the wonderful world of surprise mechanics. And there are so many things in World of Warships locked behind loot boxes now. Everything that's new in the game now comes in some form of a loot box, and it's going to get worse before it gets any better. And this is the thing that I really have the biggest problem with, because Wargaming are quite content to turn kids into gamblers, and they don't see anything wrong with that. Well, I do. So I was really looking forward to Wargaming's statement on Tuesday morning. And like I said, we don't set the bar particularly high where Wargaming is concerned, but on this occasion, they brought a shovel. The actual statement was incredibly short. Now I should preface what I'm going to say here by the acknowledgement that I was not expecting, because they hadn't had time to formulate any kind of overall strategy, and certainly no time to formulate any kind of details, but I was not expecting Wargaming to go into details about exactly how they plan to address these core issues. All I was looking for was some kind of acknowledgement that they were going to deal with these core issues. And we didn't even get that. The statement itself was very, very short. I found it hard to believe that it had taken them 2 days to come up with the 3 paragraphs. I suspect, and obviously I have no behind the scenes information here, I'm just guessing, but what I suspect happened was that the community team were tasked with coming up with the initial statement, which then kept going backwards and forwards between the community team in Prague, for example, or possibly the one in Austin, Texas, and St. Petersburg, where the producers kept saying, no, cut that bit out, no, don't admit to that, and eventually this whole statement just got smaller and smaller and smaller, until we ended up with, well, this. And there is, of course, if you read it, no actual apology, no admission of guilt, no admission of wrongdoing, and no commitment to address any of the core issues. It looks like there is, but there isn't. They don't even say sorry. What you're talking about, Jingles, it's right there in the opening sentence. We are awfully sorry. Yeah, but they're not sorry that they've done anything wrong. They're sorry that we're all mad with them. It's a non-apology. It's a non-apology that even Blizzard's weasel-in-chief, J. Allen Brack, would have been proud of if he was still working for Blizzard and hadn't been forced to resign in the midst of a yet another PR dumpster fire, but I'm getting off topic. Have a look at the first bullet point. We appreciate the community feedback about Missouri being obtainable via random bundles exclusively in 0.10.7. We've been discussing this since last week and decided to add an alternative way to purchase the ship. We will provide details on our dev blog soon. This is the only part of this entire statement that even comes close to addressing the actual issues that have got everybody so pissed off. Well, the announcement on the dev blog went up the following day, and here it is. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you. There is actually more to it than just shown in that one screenshot, but that's the important part, and if you want to know more, then by all means go and check out the dev blog post yourself. But the important thing here, actually there's two important things here. First, they're not abandoning selling the Missouri through loot boxes. Oh no. Of course they're not. No, you are still going to be allowed to have the option of gambling your life away in the futile effort to try to get the Missouri to drop from a loot box without spending at least $100. But what they're also offering you is an alternative to the loot boxes, except it's not really an alternative to the loot boxes, and I'll explain why. What they're doing is offering a campaign that you can play through in-game, at the end of which, upon successful completion of the campaign, are you going to get the Missouri? No. You're going to get the option to buy the Missouri. They couldn't just put it on sale for a fixed price, a known quantity, so that people could say, well, okay, I mean, it's never going to be cheap, it's always going to be expensive, it's a tier 9 premium after all, so it should probably cost the same as all of the other tier 9 premiums, you know, at least as much as two AAA PC games by themselves. But no, they're not even doing that. What they are instead doing is trying to throw as many obstacles as they possibly can between you and the ability to just buy the ship for a given price. What do you mean, Jingles? Well, first of all, this campaign that you have to grind through, and you can't even do it all in one go because the campaign missions are time-gated. They unlock every 2 days, at the end of which you still can't just go and buy the Missouri for a fixed price. You have to raise a customer support ticket and negotiate with them the exchange of any gold doubloons on your account necessary to cover the cost of the Missouri, at which point you will finally actually get the ship. Or you can just take your chances with the loot boxes on day one, rather than having to wait 2 weeks and then raise a customer support ticket. Now, call me a bluff old cynic, but I can't help but feel that they've made this process as time-consuming, difficult, long-winded and aggravating as possible just to make you say, screw this, I'll just take my chances with the loot boxes. Needless to say, people were not happy. And the news started to spread. The story was first taken up by massivelyop.com. Within the space of 2 days, it had gone through German language, Polish language and Dutch language gaming media outlets. Kotaku covered it, and then it even got as far as PC Gamer. These are all, of course, gaming media outlets. No mainstream media outlets have taken note in the same way that they did in the whole Sir Foch incident back in World of Tanks 4 years ago now? I don't know. And honestly, I'd be surprised if they do, because this is really just a gaming news story. I mean, regardless of how gleeful certain members of the community may be that other news outlets are starting to take the story up, I honestly don't expect anything to change. I don't expect anything that's happened to make any difference. I expect this is going to be just a couple of bad news cycles for wargaming, and within a couple of weeks, they'll be back to business as usual. Because nothing we say or do actually matters. Doesn't matter how outraged we get. It doesn't matter how many World of Warships veterans, people who've been playing since the alpha test, people who've been playing since the beta test. It doesn't matter how mad we get or how firmly we close our wallets. It doesn't matter how many views this or any other video covering the subject gets. None of it is going to make wargaming change. If this video gets 100,000 views of loyal, impassioned, veteran World of Warships players, and every single one of you vows and makes a commitment to never spend another red cent on a wargaming title, it won't make any difference. And I'll explain why. Although before I do, Have you noticed that this ship is stuck on absolutely nothing? Not the Tashkent, the Buffalo that came over to try to push him off the rocks. He's stuck on nothing. What exactly have the World of Warships map development team been doing for at least the last year? Because it's been that long since they introduced a new map to the game. They clearly haven't been designing new maps. But someone has definitely been screwing around with the existing ones, because this sort of thing is happening more and more often, and I can't help but feel that they've been screwing around with the existing maps in order to make them submarine compatible, and they appear to be even failing at that. Anyway, I digress. Back to the topic. Why is it that nothing that we say or do is going to matter? Well, it's quite simple. None of us actually matter to Wargaming's monetization strategy. I mean, I'm sure they'd prefer that we all remained paying customers, but they don't really care that much if we don't. I mean, there's only so many times they can sell us a Marco Polo or a Pommern. Once we've bought a premium ship or bundle, that's a revenue stream that's permanently closed to them. No matter how many of us give up and walk away in disgust, nothing will change, because new customers are where Wargaming are focusing their priorities. Customers who aren't used to the predatory monetization and haven't seen years of community dumpster fires brushed off with the same non-apologies of empty promises to do better in future. New customers that they can sell Marco Polos and Pommerns to, until those new customers get just as pissed off and start reacting the same way we are. You see, we think that by making our anger and disgust known, that customer turnover and churn will make Wargaming sit up and take notice. Because that's the way things are supposed to work. If a company pisses off its paying customers, it will very soon be an ex-company. But that's not the case with Wargaming. Customer turnover and churn is not their problem. It's their monetization strategy. Because they're not relying on us. They've already extracted all of the money from us that they're ever going to. It's new customers. That's where they're focusing their efforts. But what can we do about that? Because people who are new to the game generally don't read the forums, they don't read blog posts, and they certainly don't watch YouTube videos, because they've never heard of the game before until they start playing. And that's what Wargaming's counting on, and why we don't matter. So what can we do? Well, the only thing that we can do is affect the number of new players coming in. But how can we do that? Well, do you remember earlier I told you that the World of Warships age rating in Europe is PEGI 7, and it's rated T for teen in the USA? What if we could get those ratings changed? What if we could get the game rated 18 rather than 7 in Europe, because it contains gambling mechanics? What if we could get the game rated A for adults only instead of T for teen in North America? Well, we could, because there's a complaints system, and anybody can use it. And the more of us who do, the more likely that change will happen. And that is what Wargaming should be terrified of. Because Wargaming can quite happily turn a blind eye and ear to all of the angry forum posts and YouTube videos until eventually the fuss dies down and it's back to business as usual. But if the influx of blissfully ignorant new players that they can exploit slows from a flood to a trickle because the game's age rating just changed, they will have no option but to start taking our concerns seriously. Links down below in the video description. You know what to do. Take care, folks. I'll catch you next time.